Thank you very much for, first of all, very kind introduction. And I want to thank you people for the invitation and for this opportunity to meet the young people, young professionals of Nigeria. Also, for me, it's a pleasure. I have visited Nigeria several times, but you will be surprised I had never visited Lagos. So I'm here for the first time, and I'm very happy to be here. I had always looked for this kind of opportunity that would bring me to Lagos. But first of all, one gets it straight, even from this room, that the young people, young professionals, whether in Nigeria or Rwanda or other countries on our continent, in fact, and beyond, the aspirations are really the same. Young people want to build their future. They want to do those things that matter to them individually, their families, their communities, and countries. There's no difference. If you come to Rwanda and ask the young Rwandans, they tell you the same things as I'm sure I hear in this room as we meet here this morning. But Africa, in a way, is also a special case. Africa has everything it needs for its development, for prosperity of our people. Everything. In fact, we are spoiled for everything. But there are still a few things that are still elusive. How can we have everything, as I'm saying, and we don't have development? Why is prosperity still a problem in Africa when elsewhere it has almost been taken for granted? So then we have to look at different things. And the answer lies first and foremost in the hands of our young people. We have had young people in the past. That's fine. But there have been many lost opportunities. Today, I think we should be challenged to make sure that we don't lose opportunities anymore. This is the challenge to all of you, to all of us. Us as leaders, older than you as young people, in fact, who have had better opportunities than many of us in that past, because there is better education, there are different technologies that allow for interaction for networking, for improving everything in our lives, or different things that we are doing in our lives. So every year brings better and different opportunities. So it's up to us. And again, starting with the leaders, our job, as I know and feel, is to make sure that we work with you and make sure these opportunities are not wasted. And you are given the space, the time, the support, the facilitation for you to seize these opportunities and do better and be better than ourselves. So Africa, look at the demographics alone. Look at the numbers of young people. You know, in some of these developed countries, if nearly, or if not all of them, they are now having problems. There are many problems, but they don't have as many young people like you as we have in Africa. You will find that if you look at whether it is Japan or Germany or UK or United States, the population is dominated by old people like myself. The young ones, because of different things. But while in some cases some people want to see the number of the young people we have as a big challenge, we should be looking at it as an immense opportunity for development and prosperity. But for that to happen, we have to invest in many ways to support our young people. We have to invest in education. We have to support entrepreneurship. We have to facilitate innovation and creativity among our young people. And we have to do all this together. The young people, private sector, the government, and so on. So working together is key. As I want to argue today that not only should the young people of Nigeria be working together, but they should also be working together with other young people of our continent. I want to see young Nigerians, young professionals, interact and work together with the young people and professionals of Rwanda and other countries on our continent. You should make these boundaries irrelevant. Working together, networking, interaction is the best way to make these artificial boundaries irrelevant. Should be doing business together. Entrepreneurs in Nigeria should be working with their counterparts in Rwanda and in many other African countries, whether they are neighbors of Nigeria or beyond. This is how Africa is going to turn around and achieve what has been difficult to achieve in the past that we so badly need and that is our development. It is in our hands. We are capable of achieving all we want to achieve. We just need to make these connections that are necessary for that to happen. So I want to argue and invite you and also challenge you to say that is up to you. You work hard, you get it. You don't, you miss it. There are no two ways about it. We have just to make these choices, some of which are very hard choices. But there is no development, there is no prosperity that will come with simple or easy choices. In Rwanda, when the speakers before me were talking about how Rwanda is clean, how, the modest progress we have made, it's because we have had to confront some of these challenges head on, knowing and convinced that, first of all, it is doable. Second, that nobody else is going to do it for you. Even if you get support, which we do get support. I think you have heard of development aid, you have heard all kinds of things. All these will mean nothing if they don't build on something you are doing for yourself. It all comes to nothing. It will all come to nothing. So when about this cleanliness, if you had visited Rwanda 10 years ago, you wouldn't have found it. It wasn't there. But let me tell you a simple discussion we had, say, in Rwanda. I remember I used to challenge members of my cabinet. And I would go out there and talk to our people in town hall meetings and also challenge them. I would be addressing rallies of close to 50,000, 60,000 people for about 5 hours. I would take that time for that purpose. And I would tell them one thing. I say, while we need money for development, for schools, for hospitals, for roads, and so on and so forth, are we also going to need money from donors to clean our homesteads? I would ask them, do you need donors' money to clean your house, your homestead, your compound? And I would even take them back into our history and say, as I know it, in a poor family, in a rural area, people would wake up in the morning, very early in the morning, the first thing they do is to clean around. Isn't it? And I said, why can't we do this? We have the history, we have the culture, but we also need it. And it started slowly. People wondering what that meant and resisting it. And so I said, of course, we did some few things to facilitate that to happen. We said, you know what? Let's dedicate a day in a month, countrywide, for people to do cleaning up of our environment. Symbolic as it was, it had a big huge meaning. People started associating themselves with that day and with that activity. So up to this day, this is about the 10th year, every Saturday ending every month, the whole country, from 7 o'clock in the morning to 11, we are all involved in cleaning up and doing different things. And that's how, it goes into the psyche. It starts getting into the minds of people that, after all, this is something, and people start feeling good about it. And it starts having meaning and value to their well-being as well. And it trickles down into every other activity that we are engaged in. This is, you start by a small thing, and it grows into a big and bigger meaning. And it starts facilitating many other things to happen. So we have many things within our means. We can achieve many things with the means we have, but sometimes we just don't apply the means and have the results we want. So that's why leaders, and leaders here, for me, when I'm talking about leaders, doesn't mean presidents and ministers and governors. Everyone is capable of being a leader. And leadership is at different levels. You can be a leader in your own environment, at your own level. But every time, people want to grow. And therefore, levels keep growing as well. So leaders, depending on what level, with a vision, with a commitment, being able to identify what the problem is and committed to dealing with the problem, and more importantly, working together, there is no problem that is insurmountable. So the ball is in your court. You, the young people, the young professionals. I'm sure you know very well what needs to be done. You just need to do it. It won't get done until you do it. It's one thing to know what to do, but until you do it, will you get the results? So many of us know so much about what we need to do, but we end up not doing it. This is the reason for stagnation in many cases. So you have the means, you have the talent, you have the skills. Just do it and work together with others in different ways. You will complement one another and you will be wherever you want to be. These are the lessons we learn in our daily lives. Challenged in so many ways by so many things. Every moment has its own lessons. We learn a lot from all these challenges. So in Rwanda, with a very tragic history, the tragic history came with a silver lining. We just, one thing, refused to be hostage of our past. And then challenged by immense problems, we decided to come out fighting and say, we must confront these challenges. Nobody else is going to do it for us. That's why you see me every day, and together with all Rwandans, we are out there fighting for ourselves. So many people coming to give us lessons about our rights, about our freedoms, about, we say, so much of that. We've learned our lessons, and these rights you are talking about are our rights. They are not rights you have to give me. You can't be taught by somebody else how to live your life and how to exercise your rights. You've got to sit down and think and figure out how together as a people, as Nigerians, as Rwandese, as others, we need to figure out what is good for us. If you wait to read in the books what is good for you, you are in problems. Yes. All these other things we read about, we study, they improve us. They give us a good base of knowledge, of analysis, and so many things. But there are things we must do for ourselves. There are things you can't be taught by somebody else. That you can't be taught by somebody else other than your neighbor, your friend, the people you share a lot in the same community and society. Right? Yes, that's what it is. There are no shortcuts about it. Yes. These ones who would come telling you they are good for you, they mean well for you, they will do it for you, these are lies. Yes. The one who comes telling me that I want to work with you, I'm very much interested in that one. Yes. We can work together. We can support each other. We can face problems together. But you can't face my problems for me. No. You see, all the societies in this world have their own flaws. So I can't allow you to add your flaws to mine, because that will be double. Right? Yes. I have to deal with my own flaws. But together, we can deal with my flaws as well as yours. Yes. You can't come from thousands of miles to come and tell me how I live my life. Because maybe you've come with problems. So don't add your problems to mine, please. No. I need to face my own problems. But together, we can face all problems. Right? So young people, young professionals, don't waste any opportunity. Africa needs you. And I think there is a better understanding across our continent with the leaders on our continent that we need young people. We need to interact with young people. They come with new energies, they come with new ideas, they come with... And it is their right too. Because in participating in all this, they are shaping their future as well. So you cannot afford to be bystanders. Do you want to be? No. That's one thing you need to get rid of in your minds. You can't be bystanders. Challenge and be challenged, and accept that that is the best way to move forward. So, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I hope we can have more and maybe even better interaction as we talk to each other and hear from you as well. Thank you very much.
It was once said that the journey of 1,000 or 1,000,000 miles begins with one step. When you see a man with such giant stride, you do not know where he's coming from. This very special son of Africa was for 27 years in a refugee camp. He stands here talking to you as a son of Africa. And I'm hoping that this message will not get lost on you. It won't get lost on me. I know I'm a very young man, Your Excellency. So I'm going to give you a chance. But please allow me first to invite Mr. Victor Oyegoke, who incidentally is a financial cooperative analyst and a member of the kickthemout2015.org, whatever that means. But he will say a few words and then we'll do a Q&A.
Good day, sir. You're welcome to Nigeria. Permit me to stand on the existing protocol. Sir, first and foremost, I would say I'm very happy meeting with you. And I really want to commend your effort. We've read a lot, we've heard a lot. And I can see. In fact, about 3 weeks ago, leaders all over Africa from the cooperative movement were in Rwanda. And especially leaders from Nigeria, they said a lot about our country. And in fact, I said, maybe when next I'm going for vacation, I must visit Rwanda. Sir, I want to commend your effort because I watched a movie then, Hotel Rwanda, and I know the extent of what happened in that country. And now for people to be saying the country is one of the best in Africa, I think you must have done a lot. And I want to give it to you, sir. You are a peace man. We want to say again, I want to ask about your role in the peace, what is happening now in this country now, Somalia. We heard that it's like you trying to withdraw from the area of Crimea, yeah.
No, I think there's a mix-up here. Let me explain the point. The problem of withdrawing from Somalia is of a different country, not Rwanda. It's Uganda. But still, I can explain that because it concerns all of us in any case. So Somalia's problem is not Uganda's, but Africa's, and as well, first and foremost, is Somalia's problem. This problem of withdrawal from Somalia by Uganda originates from another problem, which is to do with the DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, has had its own problems for many years now. And there have been different groups over time fighting each other and fighting the government and so on and so forth, until the recent problem of a group calling itself M23. M23 is something, it's really to do with the date. It's March 23. It relates to March 23 of 2009, where there was a problem addressed at that time between different rebel groups. There were about 3 or 4, and the government of Congo. They reached a settlement, a negotiated settlement. And in fact, this problem involved also in putting what needed to be done together. The former president of Nigeria, President Obasanjo, and the former president of Tanzania, President Mkapa, working together, they analyzed this problem, put together recommendations of what needed to be done for Congo to resolve this Eastern Congo problem that involved the government of Congo and the 3 or 4 rebel groups that were fighting the government. And all of us in the region also helped to achieve ceasefire and calm that followed that period. Until recently, this year, the beginning of this year, when the problem came up again. And this followed a couple of things. First of all, the recommendations of President Obasanjo and President Mkapa were not followed. In fact, recently when some people tried, the region, there is a region called the Great Lakes region. There is a conference of Great Lakes region. When we met, there are 11 countries in that, led by the president of Uganda as the chair. The chair rotates every once or every year or something. So when somebody approached, when they approached President Obasanjo, from President Obasanjo to get involved again with the process, he said one thing that was important. He said, you see, it doesn't make sense for me to get involved again. Things like that. So, now, but when this problem flared up again, beginning with March and so on, and because of one thing, this is again Africa's problem. It's a very serious problem. When we keep assuming that other people will solve problems for us, will address our problems, really this is a serious matter. In 2000 and in March this year, one of the leaders of one of the rebel groups that had reached agreement with the government in 2009, on the recommendation of the government, working with the ICC, the International Criminal Court, they recommended that he be arrested for whatever crimes he would have committed. But because of that, the other members of this group, he led or was one of the leaders for, that's what sparked off this matter. Because they are saying, no, there has not been integration as was recommended in 2009 by these former leaders, as I mentioned. All you are going to do to resolve the problem is to start arresting people in collaboration with ICC. There are already 2 people, leaders in Congo who have been arrested by ICC. There's a man called Thomas Rubanga, There's another one who used to be the vice president of Congo called Bemba, Jean-Pierre Bemba, and so on. So it has become a way of dealing with opponents. You keep shipping them to The Hague, to ICC. But at the same time, the hypocrisy that is here and the real problem that is here, most of these people wanted for whatever crimes by ICC, it is done on a selective basis. Most of these people who have maybe committed crimes, I don't know, actually have been doing everything they have been doing together with those who are recommending for their arrest. You see? So in other words, so how can you have people working together to do whatever is seen as crimes, and then you pick only a few of them and leave the worst, yes, to be the ones to be recommending the others for arrest, for indictment? Now, and we have been telling these people in the international community that they are messing up the situation. Some of these matters for which they are arresting people are matters that need political solutions. Because the same people recommending for these people's arrest are as guilty as the other ones, yes, who are recommended for arrest. Anyway, so, but the international community is too big to listen. So what they have been doing, through the UN, they used, sometimes they want something and they just start a process that will lead them there. So they put a group, they called a group of experts who went to Congo and made a report. And you see, what is funny with this report is that it does not touch on the origin of the problem. Even not as of old, even the recent, in March, how it actually started. They just start somewhere in the middle and implicate neighbors of Congo for being associated with the problem. And they blame everything on the neighbors. They don't blame the people in the Congo themselves for their own problems. So in one of the accusations, they accuse Rwanda, they accuse Uganda. And when they accused Uganda, because they said Uganda is also part of the problem, that they assisted these rebels and so on and so forth. And Uganda protested. They said they were not part of the problem. Instead, they have been actually helping to bring peace to the Congo, because their president has been leading this conference to bring the sides together, the Congolese government and these rebels. So when it came through the UN, the Ugandans said, now look, if you are not recognizing our efforts and instead you are accusing us falsely of this involvement. So they reacted by saying, we are pulling out of all efforts we've been engaged with with the UN to bring peace, because after all, this is insulting to us. On one hand, we are doing everything to bring peace not only to Congo, but also in Somalia. And you are accusing us of creating problems instead of actually addressing them. So that's where it started from, to say they are putting out their forces from Somalia and so on and so forth, unless the UN recognized their efforts and also reversed these accusations. That's how the Somalia case comes up. I have taken long because I needed to correct, yes, the whole thing, and they are linked.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So we'll now take a few questions from the floor. And I can see hands, but but I'm going to be gender friendly. There are too many men raising their hands. Young men, not two adult men. Okay. Please identify yourself, what you do, and then your question brief.
Good, sir. Your Excellency, my name is Abiodun Adinuga. I am into private business. I'm an entrepreneur. So my questions are two. The first one, sir, is, sir, why are some countries in Africa reluctant in effecting the ICC arrest warrant against President Omar al-Bashir of Sudan for crimes against humanity? And secondly, in your submission, you said if we rely on what we read in books or from books, we are in trouble. Would you agree with me that relying on existences such as spirituality, religion, and prayers that have their origin in some books and probably implanted on our consciousness by the society is equivalent to what you have said? Because in addressing our socioeconomic challenges, I believe we need to be more proactive instead of relying on.
We need to do what?
To be more proactive in addressing our issues. Like you said in your...
I want you to give me the second question.
Okay. Maybe I have it. I can say it again. Okay. I said in your submission, you said if we rely on what we read from books, we are in trouble. And I said, would you agree with me that relying on such existences as spirituality, religion, and prayers that have their origin in some books and also implanted on our consciousness by the society, instead of embarking on reforms and taking decisive steps, similar in addressing the many overwhelming challenges confronting us as a people in Africa?
Okay.
I'm not sure if you had me.
Your Excellency.
I think that was the wrong question, but
Okay.
let me take one by one quickly, probably. First of all, it should be clear. I wasn't saying we should not read books. No. And I think I made it clear. I said we need to be informed, we need to, it helps our analysis and so on and so forth. But I was saying, in addition, we need to be conscious of the lives we live, as we live them, not in this, and these form their own lessons. They impart their own experiences and lessons on us. It's not always to be read in the books. I think let me first say that is what I said. The second, therefore, if you have the two in a good balance, your own experience, your own life as you live it, and then the knowledge that you can base on to improve that life, I think you get other things right. You should not be hostage to one type of idea or the other. I think you should be flexible and open-minded. This is what I really wanted to say, and probably it goes for the answer to the second question. Open-minded, flexible, educated by the life as you live it, as well as the reading of books that probably we are talking about. So that put together is the kind of thing I'm looking at. Now, the second part of the question is the question about ICC. I think the ICC question causes probably we need more time to talk about it, to take more time to explain it or to debate it, if you will. But I'll give you my position quickly. I wish Africa, well, first of all, ICC is built on the premise that this is a dispensation of justice internationally. But as we know it, really looking at it in its broad sense, it has become a court to try poor people, Africans. This is the way I look at it. But let's assume it's not entirely true. I still would wish that to get rid of these concerns, I wish Africa could have its own court. Or at least a level that really satisfies itself through a legal process. That such a case deserves to go to that other level of ICC. You see what I mean? Say, at the AU, African Union level. In fact, there's also something we have in Africa called the African Court of Human Rights. Yes, it is there. And I was saying, why don't we make sure that this African court satisfies itself that a case in Africa that is going to be handed to ICC actually merits going there as the level that, serves in the process of checks and balances. So that people who have these concerns are satisfied that this is the case. Otherwise, a court from somewhere just comes and says, we're interested in this one. You look at people as they are shipping them to Hague all the time. I think we need to look at it differently. It's not about opposing justice or international justice. We are saying it must be fair. I'll tell you something else. There's something they call universal jurisdiction. You see, universal jurisdiction presupposes that anybody, anywhere, who has committed a certain crime of a certain magnitude will face justice, right? Therefore, it doesn't matter where you are, whether you are in Asia, America, Europe, and Africa. But you will find, in this case, it only applies to people in Africa and nowhere else. Why? Are we admitting, or are we saying, is it true? This is what I'm saying. That actually, these crimes that deserve such attention are only committed in Africa. But we also know in history the relationship between these crimes, even if they are committed in Africa, the relationship between these crimes and the Africans with those elsewhere. Some of the crimes talked about have originated not only in Africa, but in a combination of things that have happened in Africa and outside of Africa. So what happens to those who have the responsibility who are outside of Africa? These courts don't touch them. This is the question that is at hand. It's not about whether there should be international jurisdiction or not. It's about its fairness. It's about a fair process that people are talking about. So if you are talking about Bashir of Sudan, well, this is a different matter. Again, but it is going to be seen in the same light. In fact, with the ICC, there is something confusing because in the debates, they also tell you that actually ICC deals with the cases in countries when those countries, one, are not able to handle such a cases, or if those countries request, meaning their governments request for ICC's intervention. Well, I don't imagine that Bashir's government requested for his for his arrest. Or that, this is why I was saying, Africa needs to play a hand, to have a hand in this. Or maybe Africa, in its management, should have been the one to say, no, here is one of us that we cannot handle, or that it deserves to be taken there, so that Africa also has a say in this. Otherwise, if somebody else is going to just pick and choose from outside who goes to ICC, including these heads of state, then the whole thing is abused. So my worry is about the abuse. It's not that there is no need for international justice. In fact, there is a need for that. But how is it conducted is the question.
Please, once again, I remind you to make your questions straight to the point and brief.
Thank you, Excellency. I'm very glad I made it to this seminar. My name is Allwell Ukbi. I'm a journalist. When you were talking, you spoke about, sorry, I guess we spoke about sanitation as one of the things you've been able to achieve in Rwanda, and spoke about how you were able to mobilize the people to see this as their responsibility. I'm trying to understand how you're able to get this done, because environmental sanitation, like you said, you have every last Saturday. We do have some form of it in Nigeria. I guess quite many states in Nigeria do have some form of that. And I basically see that day as a day where movement is restricted, but then people do not really see this as something they should do. Okay, how we're able to, enforce this change in a way that people see this as a national responsibility to get the environment, cleaned up. Okay, and secondly, I want to also find out how you've been able to at least keep out, let's say, politics, from governance. Okay, I mean, all this whole party thing, this and that, and how have you been able to get people in different positions of authority to get things done, okay, and carry the people along?
All right.
Thank you.
That's a very good question. I realize there are things one must do, but there are other things probably that follow necessarily. But there's one important thing: engagement. You start with that. As I mentioned to you, there has been engagement directly with the population, directly with the leaders at different levels, including, say, different political parties. In fact, one way of communicating also is helped by things we put in place. And we also did it actually to make sure that there is that communication that goes directly to people. For example, in Rwanda, in fact, our constitution provides for a forum. We call it a forum of political parties. Political parties, all kinds of political parties, come together in that forum, stipulated in our constitution, and discuss matters as we want them, and from our different perspectives. The reason for putting there that forum was to say, well, we may have different views, and we will have different views. But at the end of the day, we are working for one nation. So let's get together. Let's agree. Let's disagree. Let's talk about things as we understand them from different perspectives. But can we also identify the common ground on which to be able to move forward. Because you will find of all these political parties, we have officially 9 of them in Rwanda. You see, no one will say, none of them, even if they become 20 or something, no one is going to say, we don't need development. Our agenda is not to develop our country. I don't think there is any single one that will come up with that agenda because they know they will lose from the start. But what they come up with is to say, no, our vision for development is different from yours. You see, what is different is the process to development. They have different ideas about how they can bring in development, but nobody has an idea of saying, I don't want to develop this nation. So development, therefore, becomes something binding to all of us, but not the process. So we compete on the process to development. So we sit and argue about the need to go this route or the other route or that route, but we don't need to argue whether we need development or not. You see? And that's what that forum provides. And it gives us, so we even bring up this and say, for that sanitation you are talking about, we brought it up within this forum. And it was discussed. Of course, actually, you're right. Some of the people are saying, no, but these, it has this. Why? So it's up to different people to argue their case. So we argued our case. My party argued our case to the other and say, no, but because we do it every Saturday, yes, some of these things come at a certain cost. Because in the end, anyway, even if you don't do it, you have a cost associated with the lack of sanitation. That in itself is a cost. If you have your environment not clean, it's a big cost. So cleaning it by saying for 5 hours, we need to be paying attention to this, that's the cost of it. So we have to make comparisons. Where do we gain more? Where do we lose more? And this was the basis of the argument, and therefore we put it to them. Then we put it to the people themselves. In fact, the response was impressive because most of the people quickly understood it and were for it. But there were others, of course, as you would expect, who were not for it. But I tell you that some of the people, for example, we had an issue of people of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They pray on Saturday. So they said, no, but you are taking our day. And then in the end, they are the ones who came up with a proposal and say, you know what? For us, give us our Saturday, but we shall compensate by working on a Sunday. And we said we have no problem with that. So there was a compromise. So they don't, on that Saturday, the Seventh-day Adventists, they have their Saturday, they are not obliged to work. But they work on a Sunday. There was another flexibility in it. Some of the people who did not go to work on a Saturday, they paid for that day. There is a fee to pay. So if you haven't worked, you compensate by paying something which goes to either the mayor's office or something, because they also get involved in regular cleanup of the city other than that Saturday. So they either paid or they actually went there personally to deal with it. So there was this flexibility put in the process. There was this inconvenience which is associated with the cost, as we call it. But it is something we identified as helpful, beyond actually just sanitation. If you get used to this, communal activity and engagement, working together for a purpose like this, it starts affecting other sectors as well, positively. So this is how we did it. But most important, as I said, it is engagement. Do you engage? Do you explain? Do you show the benefits? And then it will need a little push, of course. A little push. Not being, I'm not too liberal. There are certain things, if we have identified as beneficial, we give it a little push. Yes, you don't wait and just hope things will be okay. No, sometimes you, that's a bit of it. Yes, you know, and many times we don't apologize for that because we think it is necessary, isn't it? I'll tell you something else. For example, we have now dealt with the problem of food security in our country. You know, we had a big percentage of our population that was being fed by World Food Program, and so you know all that, and food aid coming in to feed our people. And he said, no, we should not be fed by World Food Program. We should not keep getting, we can feed ourselves. So we mobilized the population. We went in every part of our rural area and told farmers, they said, we can support you. You can grow your own food. This is the way to do it. And we started buying fertilizer in bulk and actually advanced fertilizer to farmers, and they would pay after they have harvested their crop. We supported them with good variety seeds. We did everything. And followed and supervise and make sure if we find, farmers just sitting and, there is a local brew in Rwanda. Sometimes they would just start at 7 o'clock drinking and he said, no, we would say, we find you doing this, you will be in trouble with us. Sometimes just use the threat without actually carrying it out. And say, we will come for you if we find you drinking from morning to evening without doing something. So, with this support, with this explanation, again, that threat, that nagging, that pushing is what I'm talking about. That is necessary. At the end of the day, people are reluctant. They are asking why. Why is the, is the government interfering with our... No, but I have to interfere. If you're wasting your life, I have to interfere with you and say, no, don't waste your life. Yes. I can't apologize to have pushed you to be able to put food on your table. No, I'll take the blame, and that's maybe what leaders are for. Yes, I carry the blame for pushing you hard to make sure you are able to put food on your table. Isn't it? But if I let you say, oh, you must drink from morning to evening, and, when you starve, some do-gooders will come and give you ration. No. So I wouldn't apologize for pushing people to be able to put food on their table. Isn't it? So that is how it has come.
The name is Femi Awuyemi, CEO of ProShare. First, I must clarify, sometimes we in Nigeria have had to use the international system to deal with some of our corruption type cases, maybe not the ICC type problems you've had. So there's still a school of thought on how we get it. But it still reflects, perhaps, a fundamental evolution within Africa, where we consider a white scheme as much more superior in our thing. And if one looks at your own conduct in the last 10 years, you've been fighting an almost seemingly, I don't envy you. I think you're perhaps about the only president who has been courageous enough to say no to foreign aids that were not, you were famous to have said, we do not need aid, we need partnerships. And I remember your interview on the Strategy Hat Talk, where even the gentleman asking question kept on pushing you on that same button. But then it raises a question that's relevant for us in Nigeria here. One, we seem to have a net youth figure that is more tilted towards consumption rather than producing, be it in terms of value creation or not. The same argument is also in terms of how we use our minerals, whereby we produce the raw materials and we send it out to Europe and America, and then they send it back to us, and then we pay the value-added cost in it.
Sure.
For you in Rwanda, perhaps it might be easier because maybe I believe your most important revenue is taxation.
Is what?
Taxation. Taxation, right? Yeah. We have oil. We have something called oil in we we have another thing called gas, and then we have one of the most important thing called population. The combination of three means that our unique problems. How can, using your personal example in terms of Spartan leadership, in terms of good value system, in terms of your history, perhaps unique one, in terms of your growing up, how can we embrace that to help ourselves? Because, if we don't solve Nigeria, you won't live in peace. Mm-hmm. It's a fact, not just a matter of statement.
I agree.
Okay, so how do you use this and suggest it to us in terms of how we can end up improving ourselves? Thank you very much.
Thank you. You bring to me what I have passion for. I mean, meaning the question you've raised is very important. And in fact, not so long ago, another Nigerian raised the same question with me. Or rather, somehow in our discussion it came up, and we talked about this so-called resource curse. You've heard about that. And my position, my view is, it need not be a resource curse. It need not be a curse at all. And I said, in part of the discussion, I said, I wish I had a bit of that curse. But I said, I have a different curse, because in our country, we have a curse of managing poverty. And I said, if I can manage poverty, and within that produce some value that, or create a value that takes us out of poverty progressively, I certainly would do better managing resources like those. So I'm sure it starts with the people and ends with the people. Yes, it's not oil that is a problem, it's not gas that is a problem, it's not lack of it that is a problem. No, it's always people. And people can address any problem. I'm sure you can take heart that even in here where there is that problem, as you said, you can always find a way out of it. And you described it well right from the beginning. It's a mentality problem. It's an attitude problem. It's something, once you change it a little bit, you can do it. Yes. And you don't need to give up. You don't need to, surrender and say, oh, things have happened like this for so many years, and so let's surrender to it. Please don't surrender. And it's never too late. You can turn things around. And in fact, that's the challenge for the young people now. That's why it is important that for you today, one would need to tell you that, no, you are the people now. People are looking to you for a solution. You need to turn things around. You don't have to make the same mistakes that were made yesterday. No. You can take a hard look at yourselves and things that have happened and say, you know what? We are the same people as others that have managed properly the kinds of resources or even their societies, the way they have managed them without problems. There is everything with you that other people have, or even you have more. Nigeria has a huge middle class, very well educated people, by numbers, far, then even the quality of that, you have that. You can turn things around, even if it takes time. So be it, but you need to start doing that, and I'm sure it has started. I'm sure if you look at the whole of Nigeria, you'll probably say, you'll find good management in one place and in another, maybe not so good in another. Nigeria is very big, it's so big. The population is very big. So there will be a lot of problems expected of such, context and circumstances. But at the same time, these are the same resources, that the ones you have, that you can manage differently and deal with these problems. I think you can, and I believe you can. And you must believe that you can. Yes, and then do it. Yes. Don't just kind of succumb to fate and say, no, that's how things are, that's what they... No. It can change, and you are the people to change it. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Again, Nigeria is too big, too resourceful, and has many resources, and too African to allow this thing to continue. You see what I mean? Yes. Even in our Africanness, our way of doing things, we cannot accept this to go on forever. And as you said, if there's a problem here, it spreads. It comes as far as Rwanda. So that's why I think we can work together on the continent, and for us, Rwanda is ready to work with Nigeria to grapple with our problems together. And there's a lot to learn from each other and to gain from one another. And I think Nigeria can sort out its problems. There is everything to be able to sort out that problem. Right? Good.
As you may know, when this something is so good, it has to prepare to end well. You only have 15 minutes. And His Excellency is going to oblige you just 15 minutes. But the promise I'm getting from you is that each question, and I'm taking only three more questions.
Maybe you can, if they shorten them, we could even have 5.
Exactly.
That means if it takes...
Thank you, Your Excellency. So the promise is your maximum time for your question is 30 seconds. 30
for 1 minute, and allow me too.
Okay. Okay. So 1 minute, then His Excellency will take to explain. All right? And we have so many hands, but he's been singing signals to me, not sending, singing. Make it short.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency. My name is Idemu Jamak. I'm a banker. I've read a lot about your governance and achievement, and also the zero tolerance of corruption that you have. But I want to know how you managed to achieve that aspect of your governance. Thank you.
I should have mentioned from the start that the success of progress in many things that have been mentioned is not to be just attributed to leaders, even to the people. The response of people is key. So maybe it's an opportunity some of us have had to lead people whose response is as good as we want it. It wouldn't be. So it's not entirely because you can be a good leader, but you can push and nothing happens. So the response of people, if it is as good as leaders want it, then things move forward. So really, for us, it has been to think together with our people, the people we lead, explain, as I said, communicate, and then do. The doing part is key. You can have very good policies, you can have all kinds of good ideas, you can have a good vision, but nothing will happen unless implementation takes place. So doing is important, doing all the time. And then you have these, mechanisms and processes that keep checking this and that and, making sure that things are happening as they should, or there is accountability in the process. So, and fighting corruption, you can have good laws, you can have good structures, you can, name names, but until people immerse themselves in doing it, in fighting it, and holding people accountable, then nothing happens. You will only end up with very good structures and laws and so on, and also existing alongside the corruption. So until people, through that connection and through good policies and structures and programs, implementation has to take place.
Thank you. My name is Olo Okeriola Kunle. I'm an entrepreneur. My question is, I want to ask, while you were giving your speech, you did mention that the development of Africans lies in the hands of the youth. And I'm fortunate to have a friend from Rwanda. And in our interaction, he told me that he's in a direct mentorship with your good self, sir. For African to be developed, we all know that the vast population of Africans are being occupied by the youth. What is the government of all African states, head of state, doing to carry the youth along so that they can replicate what you are doing in your country there, so that they have a direct mentorship with every head of state in Africa? By so doing, maybe they'll be able to do one or two things.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know what every other leader is doing, but I know they need to do something. We need to be doing something to interact, to facilitate, to mentor the young people who, after all, in the end, will also follow in our footsteps. But we shouldn't even be seeing them as leaders of tomorrow. We should also be seeing them as leaders even today. So interaction, facilitation, investments, different kinds of investments that will allow the young people to grow their talent, their skills, their, and through the interactions I was talking about, things will happen. So it's a clear message. I'm sure every leader on our continent understands that. And we need to be doing something about it. Maybe some are doing more than others, but it's a clear message, and I'm sure everybody is clear about it.
There's a lady here, the only lady so far. Be bold and die young.
My name is Imelda. I'm a musician. I have a question for the president. I want to know, how come you have too many women in your government, while in Nigeria we don't even have so many? So how does that work for you? And how can we improve in having women in our own government too?
I'll explain how it feels to have many women in the government, but not how it feels to not have many women in the government, because we have them. So, now, I mean, the fact that we have many women in the government or other structures, in other structures and leadership, stems just from one simple fact that actually the women are there. So how can we leave them behind? In fact, by the way, they form the biggest percentage of our population. We have, women are 53% of our population. I don't think it would be quite intelligent of me or any leader to assume that the 53% would be left out, and I don't know for what reason, and then move on with the 47. So it doesn't make sense. But also from the fact that we realize it's even their right. It's an issue of right. So maybe because we've been soul-searching all along, how do we develop our country? And as I said, trying to create value almost out of nothing, because Rwanda is not so well endowed with so many resources as people talk about, oil or what. We have few things here and there, but the best value we can create would come from our people. Our people are the number one asset, and I guess it is for every. I also want to believe it is even for every country anyway, even with those with resources, still it comes to people, as I said earlier on. So when we are talking about people as the main asset for us, we need to invest in. I can't. It doesn't make sense that you would leave out 53%. And 53% who have the right as men do. You know? So that's how we started. And started making sure that women really come into the mainstream in terms of managing the country's affairs. And we've succeeded. Have 56% in parliament, women. We have about 40-something% in the judiciary, top structures, decision making levels, the private sector, and so on and so forth. We are very conscious of that, and we encourage women to take the front seat as well. So we are not shy about it. There's no need to be shy about it. Thank you.
And the very last question, Your Excellency, is coming from a 16-year-old man.
Your Excellency, Sonny just tickled me here. I guess in this business of kicking and kicking out, you also need the old men. I know that the young can kick very well, and you need the hold to also assist in kicking out. Your Excellency, I missed your opening session when you were delivering your lecture. But listening to all the responses that you have given to questions here, I have no doubt in my mind that what makes you succeed in Rwanda must have been your ability to kick out a lot of insanity. I have no doubt in my mind. But, Your Excellency, I also believe that in your kicking out, you also put your eyes on the ball, and that's why you are succeeding. I want to ask you this particular question. In all the years that you have been kicking out and doing the good businesses that you're doing in Rwanda, you must have one particular difficult one. Maybe you can share that as a point of contact to our leaders here, who apparently are seeing a lot of things that they are supposed to kick. It's either they want to kick it deliberately out or they want to kick it in. And these are the issues. I will give one typical example, which is what is disturbing us presently now. We created serious monster here in Nigeria, which is called Okada. We all created it because we needed it. There were no good transport system for the low and downtrodden. We all embraced it. Even me, I was going to airport one day. There was a serious hold-up, and I need to catch the last flight. I jumped out of my car, and I went on Okada. Whatever that means, let me explain it to you. Okada here is a motorcycle business. It's a motorcycle business. We have different kind of transportation, and this particular one is easy for a lot of people to do. But the point here is that we know that there is a lot of inconsistency in the way that these people run this business. But I strongly believe that the government is supposed to serve everybody. Even if you have a bad policy, you need to manage and create something out instead of turning out all of these people on the street, which is another adverse effect that can cause a lot of social evils. My question to you again, sir, is that you must, in one of your ways, tackle one particular issue that you have used certain ideas to kick out that particular difficult thing in that environment. Can you share it with us? I thank you very much.
Well, first of all, I want to tell you that we have Okada in Rwanda. It's maybe those who have been in Kigali have seen that. All we did was not to interfere so much with that, as it was that we just immersed ourselves in trying to help organize them. Yes, we just wanted that organized. It's a very lucrative business as well. To the point that you'll find a number of motorcycles belonging to some of the people, even in the government. But we made sure that even whoever they belong to, if he interferes with the process of this Okada and how they serve people, he will pay for it. So the structures are out there. The management, we helped, they have cooperatives, they have, and we helped form the organization of these drivers and owners and so on, to the point that they operate in an orderly manner without benefiting one or the other more than the other, and so on and so forth. It's the market that will determine that and prevent interference from outside. So that's what it has, from the beginning it had problems also. I'm saying yes. And then, in fact, we went as far as even insisting on safety of people, other than the well-being of the owners and how much money they get from that. Or what. We even said, no, but we need safety. And you know, we obliged them to have helmets for passengers and for themselves, the riders. We insisted on that for the safety of people, because we had experienced a lot of loss of lives at the beginning. So it's always how organization is important. We are talking about leadership, but organization is key. Leadership, organization, communication, and explaining to people why what is happening, and to whose benefit. Is there equity? Is there, people, do they feel they are well served broadly without one group being favored against another, and so on? This is always a problem that people have to grapple with to deal with such a thing. So, from the question you raised, it's about the biggest problem is how do you create the buy-in for people for anything you have introduced. There's conceptualizing and introducing something that is going to work and work to the benefit of the people, because we are there to serve people. It doesn't matter which sector. But how do you have people, accept that and be part of it the way that is going to benefit them most? Because it is not automatic that when something is working for people or you're going to work for people, that everybody will be accepting it. So this is the main challenge we face every day. What is it that is going to benefit people? But how are they going to accept this and be part of making sure that it happens? This is one thing that people have to keep focused on. And that's what we try to focus on. It doesn't matter what, whether it is in the health sector or in agriculture, in transport, in whatever. What is it? What is it that we haven't done that should be there and that should benefit people? But how are we going to draw in people? How is it going to be inclusive to the point that people actually accept it and benefit from it as they should, without always that happening from the top and always demanding? How do you make sure that also bottom-up process takes place? It's quite a challenging business to do that for anything you want to do.